Hey, I'm Sean Provencher with Front Seat Real Estate, and this is Dylan Provencher, leader of the Path Real Estate team.
Hey, gang.
So what we wanted to do today was just put together a quick instructional video on the 411 document. This is something that we plan to both share with you guys and use as a training tool for our team. And for those of you out there who have teams, I would highly encourage you to use this video as a way to help your team understand what this is for and the value it brings.
I'll tell you too, when we decided to reinvest in the 411, because, you know, I gotta be honest, Sean, you and I were not the greatest at these things for a long time. It's a bit of a learning curve, and we didn't really understand. We did a video before on how it all rolls down the mountain from the 1, 3, 5 year, the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goal down to, you know, specific projects might require a GPS, and how that's what's supposed to populate your 411. So 411, that's this document, and
this is part of that series.
Totally.
Truthfully,
And
this is one of the parts of it.
And the one last thing I'll say is that we were expecting, because, you know, we roll out a lot of new stuff for our team. We're always squirming until we're all millionaires is the way we see it. And our team can get frustrated by it sometimes. You know, we're always coming out with a new idea, but the feedback for the 411 has just been, I would say, across the board incredible. Now, one thing that's important about a 411 is that you don't do it for your agent. So you don't write out the stuff in it. You do the first one like the first day they get there. It's part of our launch process. But then week 2, they're writing their own. And the reason is because one thing that can be frustrating as leaders is when you have someone come to one of your 411 meetings or your one-on-ones or whatever it's called on your team, and they kind of have this like hands up in the air, I don't know attitude. And the nice thing about the 411 is I don't mind someone coming to me with a plan that I feel is faulted. I do mind when people come to me with no plan whatsoever, because the problem is that if you have to start from absolute square one, it's just a big waste of everyone's time. And as leaders and experienced agents, they actually have better questions to be asking us than, what do I do tomorrow morning? So the 411 is an incredible tool for that.
Okay, so what is it?
So basically, you've got 4 weeks, 1 month, and 1 year.
Hence 411. Ding.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So really, there are certain elements to this. And now, one thing about the 411 is there's actually 2 versions available, one with personal and one without. Now, whichever one you choose to use for yourself is totally your business. If it was a private 411 that I was just making for myself or my family, I would definitely include personal. Sometimes with teammates, though, they think it's a little weird if you want to know what their personal goals are. Now, I find that it is really important to actually include the personal stuff, because if you're just always only talking about money, it's sort of a fruitless conversation. Like there's nothing really huge about that. The money is there for the good it can do. Like money's good for the good it does, and what it's funding in the personal side really does matter. So,
plus from a coaching perspective, if you don't know how the money they realize from their actions is going to affect their lives, you're missing a big part of what you can coach them to.
Really,
so if you know, if in personal they've got 2 great vacations in that column on their annual goals that they want to make sure that they get to, and you don't coach them to that, then you're kind of letting them down as their leader.
Well, and the fact is that that's the reason that they need to make all the money.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and the same thing goes if it's like education for their kids. I mean, you name it. Whatever it is that's important to them, it's really critical that it gets on.
So I really like the one with personal, because I do think that you should look at that stuff as often as you look at your business goals. And if people try to have separate areas that they hold themselves accountable to separate things, it's just going to be too hard for them to maintain. So they're not going to get what they want out of it.
Totally. Now, one thing I will say is that I'm a lot more hard on their business and their job 411 than I am about their personal. I do a quick check-in on their personal.
How
items.
you doing?
If they're happy and they don't need anything more to talk about, I don't really I'm not super fixated on that.
It's more about writing it out.
Totally.
So,
exactly.
So how does it work? What do you put where? Just run us through the document.
Okay, so basically, everything, in my opinion, starts with, again, your 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals.
Yep.
And then basically you would populate your 1 year goals from that document directly onto here. Now, if you have a specific goal within that you need to kind of break out a little bit more and maybe chop into pieces a bit more, I would use the GPS document, the goals priority strategy sheet, and then that would help me populate for some of the monthly stuff. So again, if it's not in the annual, there's no way it can be in the monthly. If it's not in the monthly, it can't be in the weekly. So everything has to cascade down the hill as usual. So yeah, basically you would take your monthly goals and you would split it up. Now on our team, we also have what's called a pipeline report. So we used to actually include in this individual transactions that we were going to plan to write. But
Close Sally and Jane
exactly.
kind of thing.
But the problem that we realized by having it in this document was that we were actually having releases of, I believe the chemical is called cortisol, which is like it's negative dopamine basically.
Yeah, it's
so you'd see
fight
that
or flight.
if you planned on doing something in week 1 and for whatever uncontrollable circumstance, it didn't happen, all of a sudden you felt like a failure. So it was like this kind of shitty thing that was happening right out the gate. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to sort of pull it back and make it that it was a monthly goal. This way, if you didn't quite hit it on week 1, you still knew that you had an opportunity to get in week 2. It wasn't like in black and white you had failed week 1. It was just that there was a push. Because here's the thing, if you put a goal in any one of these weeks and it doesn't work, what do you think happens to it? Does it just go away?
Yeah, of course. That's how life works, right?
Obviously not. If you have a goal in week 1 that you don't obtain, it gets rolled over to week 2. So it just means that the more you can do up front in the week, or in the month rather, the better, the easier the last few weeks of the month are. And who knows, maybe you get a surprise vacation. Maybe, if you absolutely crush it in week 1, 2, and 3.
Quit early on Friday or something. Or you get to advance into next month's goals.
Exactly correct.
So one thing that I do just want to clarify.
Sorry, one last thing before we go on, Sean, because I just want to roll this forward too. If, for whatever reason, you're in January and you don't hit your January goals, it also doesn't just get rolled forward weekly, it gets rolled forward monthly. So if your GCI target was $25,000 for January and you sold $22,500, you've got $2,500 to make up in February. And the nice thing about this is it allows you really to see how people are trending and how committed they are to their goals. Because if they're mid-February and they're not where they need to be and they're quitting early on Friday and doing whatever else, you kind of need to have a conversation about them whether or not they're actually committed to these goals.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing too that I do want to clarify is that the idea is that you take your 3 categories of annual goals and you chunk them down to monthly goals and then you chunk them down to weekly goals. But he was saying you can't have something in your weekly goals unless it's in your annual goals and vice versa. But sometimes you'll have annual goals that you're not working on every month of the year. You might have a big project that starts in June or something like that. So you really just want to focus on the big rocks up here. Don't get too granular in the annual goals. And then as you chunk it down, you'll know what kind of fits into each category for monthly and then for weekly as well.
And again, to tie it back to the GPS and the 1, 3, 5, 10, it would be reflected in the 1, 3, 5, 10 because a lot of your goals that are annual, if they're specific things like, for example, Sean becomes Keller Williams Master Faculty Instructor, that might be a Q4 2017 thing, so it probably wouldn't even start showing up until...
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
November.
I just got to say, having your goals written out and having a way that you're responsible, ideally to someone else. I don't know what kind of self-control you have, but typically people do the best in goals when they both write them out and share them with someone else and have an accountability measure, such as, it doesn't have to be a coach that you pay. It could literally just be, I send my mom my 411 every week, and just the act of going through that will make an immeasurable change on the chances you have of hitting your goals.
The fact is that for my 411, I actually have a very, very important person. However, ultimately, she's an employee of mine. She does it with me because the series of questions are very straightforward. It doesn't need to be an authority figure. In the Keller Williams family, obviously, be pretty clear though. It would be team owner if you're on a team, your MAPS coach if you have one, your team leader at the market center would be a great option, or the productivity coach. Those would all be people who would, and to be honest with you, if you have a caring enough operating principle, which most of us do, they would be another option as well.
Yeah.
So there are lots of free opportunities to have people look at these things, and frankly,
and again, they don't need to do a consultation with you. It's just the act of making yourself send it to them that makes such a huge difference. So,
you should see too the layout in the course I took recently on leadership with Keller Williams was 30, 60, 90, which is unbelievable. I recommend it to everyone. But it's literally a series of 7 questions. And when I do it with, her name's Ashley on my team, we literally slide the textbook back and forth to each other because we do it for each other. And you just ask the question
verbatim.
It's it's like reading a listing appointment.
That's awesome.
The listing appointment. Yeah.
Okay. Hope this helps. If you're not using a 411 right now, I can't imagine anything better. So whatever you're using, you should probably just start using this. And if you're not using anything, I guarantee this will help.
Yeah.
If you want to bounce it off someone, reach out to us. I'd be happy to take a look at yours. And if you're looking for a blank copy of the 411, we can send you one. Other than that, just reach out. We're always happy to help, guys. Thanks so much.